A story about the father of 4-H and Ohio native A.B. Graham led us to an archived radio interview from 1958 commemorating his 90th birthday. This interview, led by Mary Lou Ann Sonway, farm broadcaster for WRFD at the time, takes us back to the beginning and shows us how 4-H came to be what we know it as today. The following audio is an excerpt of that once-in-a-lifetime conversation.
Mr. Graham, having been a 4-H member myself and rearing two 4-H members, one having been a member for 11 years and the boy 8 years, I think it would be kind of nice for us to hear the story of 4-H, how it was born by the man who was responsible for its birth.
Well, 4-H club work, like a great many other things, like Topsy, it just grew up after it got a little start. There's a few things that led to the start with me. I was a school teacher in the rural schools, and a feeling kept coming over me, especially after I had graduated from the normal school at Lebanon, Ohio, that the children were not being helped in their educational work by their own immediate environment. That's what's right around them in the home and on the farm. So I confess I was somewhat of an educational heretic. I began to use as much of their environment as I could in this one-room country school work, and they were interested in it, and we could use it very much to their benefit by interpreting what the books said. One man said to me, well, if they learn what's in the book, that's the best part of it. It is not by far. When they learn what's outside of the book, then they can interpret what the book says. And the reverse is true. When they learn what's in the book, they can go outside and look for it. So as the years rolled by, I read something of school gardens in Cleveland, school gardens in a few other places that I were told about in the National Educational Association's publication. And I made up my mind that if I ever had the opportunity, I was going to see if I couldn't work that well. The opportunity came to me, it dropped right in my lap. I was employed in Mandiver Township High School, located at the little village of Terre Haute in Champaign County, Ohio, near which I was born. I made up my mind that this environment should be used in the teaching of physics, in the teaching of chemistry, botany, physical geography, through soil formation, drainage, and various other things that we could bring in to those subjects, especially physiology, foods, sanitation, and so forth. After I served from 1896 to 1900, another Board of Education in Clark County, next to Champaign, asked if I would take charge of their rural school system around the city of Springfield. That is in Springfield Township of Clark County. I accepted the place and found this an opportunity, but I had to get acquainted with the people. I had to get acquainted with my Board of Education, and they had to get acquainted with me, the children, and the teachers. Well, that took about a year and a half to ripen up to a point where I felt that I could spring this matter that I had in mind. And I formulated a plan whereby we would test out seed corn of different varieties, placed in the hands of these boys and girls, to be planted on plots of definite measurements. Also to have a little garden of about the same area as their corn plots were. Then to sow flower seed of some of the old-fashioned common varieties. But those seeds were secured from what was in vogue then, the gift feature of seeds that are supplied by the United States Department of Agriculture. They were supposed to be a little better than some others. A fourth feature was to test the soil for its sourness or acidity. These seeds were distributed in time as met the needs of the list of pupils that volunteered. I want to emphasize that fact. These children volunteered to take up with the plan that I laid before them as I visited their schools from place to place. I talked to them a little while and asked them if there were any of them that wanted to volunteer to do a little piece of work like this. And to my surprise, after I had gone around with my horse and buggy to 12 schools, I had 35 children whose names I have still recorded. Then I made a second trip, and lo and behold, when I totaled them, I had a grand total of 85, much to my surprise, and I think much to the surprise of the teachers too, because this was not to be done by them, but they were, with one or two exceptions, supporters of it. And as they heard it talked about and as they saw these children begin their work, they were sold to the idea. So these children had plots granted them by their parents at their homes. Now, I didn't want a school garden because rural boys and girls have to work at home during the summer vacation, not do in the city. But in the country, there'd have been a weed patch in every one of these places, and that is exactly the opposite of what I wanted to teach. So the children had their plots at home where the parents could look on and support them and offer suggestions now and then. And that's exactly what I wanted, was to tie the parents to the school, but right in their own bailiwicks, their own home grounds and farms, gardens. Now, a work like this, I knew, could not be carried on without supervision. The teachers would be gone, and they didn't need to worry themselves about it. I took the matter in hand myself. Now, I want a meeting place, and I didn't care exactly to break this matter to my Board of Education. This was to be done in the vacation time, so it is not really a part of the public school system. Yet it's the same personnel as to the pupils. And I visited each one of them, and it's a fine thing that I did, because there are some things that are just going a little bit wobbly, and it needed leadership. Now, that's exactly what we need today, and that's exactly what we're getting in good form, too. Much better than I had then, because I was paving the way for something, and I had to do a little feeling around myself, as every person does who starts in on a piece of work.
Mr. Graham, we might point out right there that the leadership today now is through Extension and at 4-H advisors, isn't it?
Yes. Today, it's more of a formalized plan. They're volunteer leaders, of course, but the leadership of today is independent in most places of the public school system. And as I told these boys and girls, if they didn't like the project they took, they could take another one some other time. It wasn't like following a course of study. It was doing a thing that they thought they'd like. And then, too, I soon began to discover that there were certain things that they grew into liking. They thought before they didn't know much about that. They had little doubt about it.